Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So the Kaldheim spoiler season / week of metal, even though it's only 3 days, is continuing today. Again, if you haven't seen my episode where I talk about the schedule for the spoiler season of Kaldheim, go and check that out. It can be somewhat confusing because spoiler season actually starts off on January 7th, and yet it is nowhere near January 7th right now, or at least it's not quite there yet. And yet we have some spoilers, so yeah, go ahead and check that out. But yeah, today I want to talk to you about a brand new spoiler that's really exciting, that does something that we've seen on other cards, but we've never seen just on a card that can fit in any deck. Without further ado, let's talk about Pyre of Heroes. So, Pyre of Heroes is an artifact that costs 2, and it has pay 2 and tap it, sacrifice a creature, search your library for a creature card that shares a creature type with the sacrificed creature, and has converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the creature's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Activates ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. One thing really quick before we jump into the card, actually, though, on quick takes like these, if I misspeak or if I say something incorrect, my apologies. These cards are as new to me as they are to you, and I'm trying to just get my initial thoughts on the card. With that said, let's jump into it. So yeah, Pyre of Heroes, we've seen cards that do something similar like this. Obviously, the first one that comes to mind is Birthing Pod. So Birthing Pod is similar. It is an artifact, but it does have green. Phyrexian green, technically. But basically, it costs 1 more. It has 1 less to activate, technically, again, if you're paying the 2 life instead of the mana for the green. And then it basically does the exact same thing, except you can sacrifice any creature and go get any other creature that has that same +1. So that is the kind of one-to-one comparison. Pyre of Heroes, again, can fit in any deck, though, since it doesn't have that green restriction. It does, again, cost 1 less, cost 1 more to activate. So the 1 more to activate is definitely a factor. But, again, being able to fit in any deck makes it so that it has kind of an upside against Birthing Pod because, yeah, there are certain decks that just can't use it because of that green restriction. The downside of Pyre of Heroes, obviously, is that you are restricted to a creature type, which is very, not too restricting that it's not going to see any use, but it's restricting that it's not going to be overly broken. Basically, again, that creature type, I'm sure there are plenty of broken things that you can do with this, but it does restrict kind of which creatures you can really utilize for those really powerful things. Again, paying 2 to sacrifice a creature and getting another creature that costs 1 more, that can be incredibly valuable. Again, you're being able to search for whatever creature you want that kind of fits that restriction. Maybe it's got a powerful ETB. Maybe it's just a very powerful creature. Maybe it's got a powerful LTB, and then you can sacrifice it the next turn. So again, you can build around kind of this tribal Birthing Pod card. I saw some people calling it a line tripod. So yeah, that might be what its actual nickname becomes. We've seen similar cards to Birthing Pod in recent years. Vannifar is the first one that comes to mind. Prime Seeker Vannifar. Tap, sacrifice another creature, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrifice creature's converted mana cost. Put that card on the battlefield and shuffle your library. Activates ability every time you can cast a sorcery. Essentially a Birthing Pod on a creature. Obviously, this one could be very abusable as a commander. Basically being able to set up what's called a pod chain, going from one creature to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And with Vannifar, you could have cards like, Scrib Ranger, which lets you untap by returning a force back to your hand. Bounding Crassus, which untaps a creature when it comes into play. Breaching Hippocamp, which does the same. So basically, yeah, you just go up the chain, 2 converted mana cost, 3 converted mana cost, 4 converted mana cost. It's going to be a lot more difficult to do that with a card like Pyre of Heroes, though I don't doubt that it could be done. I'm sure someone out there has figured out some sort of a very powerful chain. Again, the difference is that you need something that can untap an artifact, and then again, you are restricted to a specific creature type. So, obviously, you could, let's say you're in Goblins. You could do some very powerful things, like, go from a Goblin Arsonist, which, just a 1-drop. You sacrifice it. You're already going to be able to ping something for 1 damage. Woohoo! And then you go into a Dockside Extortionist, which, again, is incredibly powerful. You get, basically a treasure for each artifact your opponents control. That can be a ton. Then you sacrifice that because you're done with it. You go get a Goblin Chain Whirler or some other 3-drop that basically, does something powerful on ETB or LTB. So, yeah. There are definitely some really incredible things that you can do within a tribal deck. What I do want to recommend, though, is that you kind of think outside the box a little bit when it comes to kind of, it doesn't just have to be specifically for, a goblin tribal deck. You can utilize this in a fashion where you're kind of utilizing those secondary creature types. So, like, in this one, we've got a goblin shaman, goblin pirate, goblin warrior. The similar thing within all these, obviously, is that they're all goblins. But if we're looking at kind of a different kind of chain with where we go from Eternal Witness to Archaeomancer to Puppeteer Clique, we can do that as well, because Eternal Witness is a human shaman. So we go from human shaman to a human wizard to a fairy wizard. So yeah, you can kind of jump, you obviously can't go from human shaman to fairy wizard, but if you've got something in between, you can jump to that. So yeah, make sure you're kind of keeping in mind that you can jump from, one creature type to another in various ways. Again, you just kind of need to make sure that you have I guess a deck that's got a lot of, similar creature types, and it doesn't have to all be the exact same one. It doesn't have to be necessarily a tribal card. But yeah, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you understand kind of what's in your deck before you go and activate this and, what options you have. One thing to keep in mind with this as well is that shapeshifters that have Changeling, Changeling just basically gives you access to any creature type. So yeah, or you can get, when you're sacrificing any creature, you can go get your Changeling as well. Again, as long as it's got that converted mana cost restriction met. So like Mirror Entity, a 1/1 Changeling, that fits into a good amount of decks. It can pump your team, essentially. Yeah, so this one, you can essentially, sacrifice, go get something that costs 4, or, sacrifice something that costs 2 and get this. This can kind of be an in-between in that, pod chain that you can kind of, jump from something to a Changeling to something that you really want, and so on and so forth. So make sure you keep that in mind. Let's talk about some, tribal decks, though, that might be wanting a card like this. The first thing that came to mind was Slivers. Yes, Slivers definitely like to have other Slivers in play. And yeah, can have some incredibly powerful effects. So being able to tutor up, the right Sliver for the situation that you're in. Obviously, again, you need to make sure that you get something that's 1 converted mana cost higher. But yeah, being able to tutor for any Sliver in your deck and get it right into play, that can be a very, very, very powerful thing. Another one that came to mind was actually Reaper King Scarecrows, because again, it has whenever another Scarecrow comes into play under your control, destroy target permanent. Yeah, that's like a Vindicate just whenever a Scarecrow comes into play. So you're paying 2 mana, you're sacrificing a Scarecrow, you go get one that's slightly bigger, and then, yeah, you Vindicate something. So that's a very powerful thing. Eldrazi was another one that comes to mind. A colorless Birthing Pod can definitely fit in a colorless deck. So yeah, Cause like the Great Distortion, Eldrazi Tribal, going from small Eldrazi up to much bigger and more scary Eldrazi can definitely be a thing. Of course, obviously a Humans deck, Allies deck, Goblin deck. You can just keep listing kind of any kind of tribal deck that might want this, that are very, very specific, to just one tribe. It can definitely fit in those as well. But yeah, this is a very interesting card. Again, Birthing Pod is definitely considered to be a broken card in many formats. I believe it's banned in Modern. I could be wrong on that. Please let me know in the comments if I'm incorrect on that. But yes, I believe that they do like this kind of, sacrifice creature will get one that is slightly bigger kind of effect. And they're trying to make less broken ways to do that. In Pyre of Heroes, it definitely has, I think, enough restriction to make it so that it's not broken. Again, you can do some really cool things with that creature type by jumping from one certain creature to another to get to another. Again, whether that's with changelings or with sub-creature types or so on and so forth. But yeah, you can do some creative things with this, or you can just stick it in a tribal deck and just enjoy. So yeah, that's my take on Pyre of Heroes, though. Now it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this card are. What kind of a deck would you put it in? So yeah, let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks again and have a good one.